Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here for once again to do another Mandalorian discussion. Season 2 look back review, where I review the second season for the Mandalorian for Star Wars Day as I watched the last two episodes of Season 2 finale today, as well as Darth Maul's final for Shadow Lords. I was hoping to watch a Star Wars movie, but I didn't have time, but who knows, maybe I might watch 30 minutes of one, but yeah. Hope everyone enjoyed Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you, as you will. Anyway, time to discuss. The Mandalorian, in which, of course, season 2 is basically taking place after the events of the first Mandalorian season, in which we get the character Din Djarin, played by Pedro Pascal, who does a job to try and find, if you will, as Mando, if you will, does a job to try and capture this particular asset or target, if you will, and it turns out to be none other than Baby Yoda, aka the child, if you will. So yeah, let's see. As a result of that, he becomes quite attached to it, and then eventually trades his Bounty Hunters Guild and the Empire in order to protect it, making friends and enemies along the way, eventually encountering infamous Moff Gideon, if you will, with his own Mandalorian tribe, if you will, nearly being wiped out, with the leader, the armorer, if you will, ordering him to sort of return him to the Jedi, if you will. So season 2 would be basically implying which the Mando would try and find the Jedi, while also perhaps dealing with Moff Gideon, who's revealed to have the dark saber, perhaps diving into more a bit of Mandalorian lore, if you will. So yeah, we have 8 episodes as usual for a season: the Marshal, the Passenger, the Heiress, the Siege, the Jedi, the Tragedy, the Believer, the Rescue, if you will. Basically all those things. And the first episode, has Mando going back to Tatooine, if you will, encountering, of course, a friend that the mechanical friend that he made last season, Pelimalto, who's now getting used to him being friend of droids now. Asking for help in order to find apparently this Mandalorian that's apparently on Tatooine, and it turns out to be this guy here, Corb Van, who apparently first appeared in Chuck Wedding's novel trilogy, The Aftermath, and he is wearing basically Boba Fett's armor. Now, from my understanding, Chuck Wedding's a very controversial Star Wars author, given the fact that he bashed the prequels when he first got the job, and also I think said some sort of politically controversial tweets, particularly maybe more aimed more at the more conservative bunch, but they eventually got him sacked for some posts. But never mind about that. But basically, Cobb Van apparently got the armor once some Miners Guild started invading his town. He had fled. He picked up from some Jawas who bought it. As a result, has used it to protect his town ever since. Mando, since he follows the creed, if you will, about only Mandalorians can wear armor. Wants the armor back, but he of course refuses. But there's a Kite Dragon causing problems. So he offers that if you help him get rid of this Kite Dragon, he'll give him the armor, which Mando agrees. Eventually results in rescuing with teaming up with Tusken Raiders, and they eventually kill the dragon, and he gets the armor. But we get a surprise, of course, appearance, if you will, of the actual Boba Fett as a cameo at the end, Tamara Morrison, if you will, as we see here, as in Tatooine black garb, if you will, observing, showing that he is going to be eventually chasing Mando for basically his armor. And then we get to the second episode, if you will, where once again Peli Marto is able to help him with a lead of the Mandalorians with this gecko-like species, if you will, that needs to have her eggs transport to find her mate, if you will, to ensure the survival of her bloodline, if you will. So you have a little bit of that, and you have and during this you end up encountering a recurring character in Mando season 3, and Ahsoka, if you will, with Carson 12, or where New Republic with Dave Filoni end up pursuing Mando for a bit, which leads to a bunch of battle against a bunch of ice spiders, if you will, with the New Republic forces sort of saving him. And also one of that droid, a part of like that criminal group that Mando helped with in the heist, if you will, in episode 6 of season 1. We used it as a communicator with the Gecko. There's also like the controversial moment where Grogu ended up eating some of like her eggs, because it's like don't eat those, man. But yeah, especially since they're supposed to be the egg babies. But I guess Grogu's appetite wasn't it knows no bounds, if you will, knows no restraints. But eventually, the next episode basically has Mando go to the planet they were talking to. After a few hijinks, he runs into Bo-Katan Kryze, if you will. She and her Mandalorians take off their masks. So this is like one of the first, if you will, animated characters, if you will, for Star Wars that's gone from animated to live action, if you will. And we learn that and as we know, for those who watched the Clone Wars know that Mandalorians took their masks off all the time. But turns out that Mando is a part of a group known as the Watch that follows the old way, and they're regarded as a bit of a cult, so if you will. And Mando doesn't really see them at Mandalorians at first. It eventually takes a while before they come to agreement that, she will help him find a Jedi if she helps him take some weapons, in which without hijacking a ship, which is of course in the service of Moff Gideon here. They eventually succeed in it, but the ship's captain takes his life before Bo-Katan gets the information of where Moff Gideon is, and eventually gives Mando the information that finding to find a Jedi by the name of course, Ahsoka Tano, basically Anakin's Padawan, and of course from the Clone Wars, so revealing that she had survived post Return of the Jedi, if you will. Though granted, Star Wars Rebels gave a very strong hint of that, to be fair. So with Mando now knowing where to find a Jedi, he ends up reuniting with Cara Dune and Grief Karga, but also you get the blue alien stuff from like the Mandalorian, I believe. I've gone the wrong. That's the wrong one. Let's see the fleeting Mothra, if you will, the blue sky guy here, if you will, who is apparently he basically scammed Grief Karg, who was like working for him, and then Mando ended up pricing back, and he has like a 300-year debt, which I'm not sure how he's supposed to pay back, but he gets a bit of it cut by escorting Grief Karg and Cara Dune, if you will, to like take out this Imperial outpost, in which Mando ends up seeing the scientist. The scientist, this one here, Dr. Pershing in a hologram, revealing that, okay, Mando now knows that Moff Gideon's alive, and after a bit of a speed-up chase thing with Grief Karga and Cara Dune against TIE fighters, Mando is able to save them before escaping. And during this, you get, of course, the New Republic pilot, or Karen Teva, if you go to like Cara Dune, offering her to become a New Republic marshal. if you will, Garrett, so using like the sort of history of Alderaan to like convince her that okay, you know, perhaps it's time to like go back in service and help stop the Empire's overlords in the area, if you will, which she seems to agree. And for many people, this was like building up to like a what was announced as the Star Wars spin-off show, Rangers of the New Republic, in which Cara Dune is likely going to be like the main lead, sort of building up this sort of like Mando expanded universe, similar to like the MCU, if you will. But unfortunately, Gina Carano, Cara Dune's actress, ended up spouting some very conspiracy, crazy tweets and messages about COVID vaccines, election fraud in the 2020 election at the time, and also some very controversial, I think, posts about pronouns or maybe trans people. I think it was mostly pronouns, but despite and eventually ended up saying that those who ended up having sort of like political views, implying very heavily on conservative or Republican views at the time, to be treated to like those who were like prejudiced in the Holocaust, which I think anyone knows that if you sort of like bring up like the Holocaust and do some probably some insensitive comparisons, that is going to give you a load of trouble. And as a result, Disney ended up firing the character, so we will not see this character after season 2. But yeah. And I believe that caused perhaps some problems, not only for like the new Rangers of the New Republic show from ever happening, but also for the plot lines, I guess you could say, for season 3, if you will. But yeah. But eventually, Mando arrives on the planet where Ahsoka Tano is in live action, played by Rosario Dawson, who is currently in battle against this woman here, Morgan Elsbeth, if you will, who will play a pivotal role in like Ahsoka's season 1 live action series, if you will. And there's some hints about her like past, if you will, though it's not fully mentioned until you like, of course, Ahsoka, but you can see the hints. We've watched this episode, are like, okay. And she also has a bit of a role in the Tales of the Empire. It's the animated shorts, if you will. I'm not going to go full details, but basically, thanks to like encountering Ahsoka, let's see, the Mando Din Djarin learns that baby Yoda's, or the child's name, is actually Grogu, if you will. So he has a name. She refuses to train him because apparently he's become too attached to Mando, but offers to like, if you instead of like doing Morgan Elsbeth's plans to kill me, help me save like the planet that she is occupying. After a bit of a defeat, we learn that after Ahsoka defeats Morgan Elsbeth, we learn that her master is apparently Grand Admiral Thrawn, hinting that he is like returning and arguably going to be the more overall big bad for the more larger scope of like not only Ahsoka but perhaps the Mandoverse, which was supposed to lead into a movie. But since now Dave Filoni is now co-president of Lucasfilm, it's up for it's questionable whether or not this movie will end up actually happening, if you will. But it is what it is. But yeah, Mando takes Grogu to the planet Typhon, as Ahsoka suggests, where he should find a contact with a Jedi. And during this, they encounter Boba Fett, who has been pursuing them, wishing to reclaim his armor, but Mando doesn't believe he's a Mandalorian. And we learn that he's got the assistance of Fennec Shan, who has survived being killed off from like the 5th episode of season 1, if you will, becoming a bit of a cyborg, if you will, from like Van der Waste, if you will, is now in the service of Boba Fett, who saved her life, if you will. So yeah, they team up, but the Empire comes in, and Boba Fett, during the whole course, reclaims his armor and becomes a bit of a ruthless killer, if you will, showing just how badass he can be with the armor, if you will, taking out a whole squad of stormtroopers and even 2 shuttles, if you will. But let's see, Grogu is kidnapped by Moff Gideon's dark troopers, if you will. Or Death Troopers, ritzy droid stormtroopers, if you will. Very powerful, get jetpacks, so they need to work together, and they get the help of Cara Dune now that she's a Marshal of the New Republic. In the next episode, where they get Mayfield, who is serving his time in prison in a sort of whole transport. You got of like as a result, but during the whole course of thing, in order to infiltrate, let's see, the facility, they need to escort this sort of fuel tank, and everyone's faces are scanned for from the Empire minus Mando, so he ends up taking off his armor and wearing Imperial Storm, let's see, Imperial and some Imperial armor, if you will. You got a bit of head-to-head between Mayfield and Mando, and you get some like philosophical thing about how far you go for your beliefs, if you will. And for like a Mayfield, it's like as long as his belief is as long as you're sleeping comfortably at night, it's fine. During they managed to succeed getting inside, but Mayfield ends up encountering an Imperial officer he used to serve. So Din Djarin has to try and scam the comm thing and has to take off his helmet. Gets exposed by not only the Imperial officer, but Mayfield, who had to come in and step the thing. And after a bit of Mayfield's morality finally reaches the breaking point, shoots the Imperial, and they have a bit of a swift escape. Rescued by, of course, Boba Fett and Fennec Shan and Cara Dune, shooting out the Mandos, with Mayfield blowing up the station. As a result, blowing up the fuel thing, so he could sleep at night. And as a result of his heroics, Cara Dune lets him go, having him reported that he apparently died in the thing. So now that the whole thing is done, but Din Djarin contacts sort of Moff Gideon, if you will. That Moff Gideon, if you will, has a sort of like saying the words that he once said to him in season 1 about like the value of Grogu, if you will. Of course, for Din Djarin, it's more familiar. It's more of a family family value, if you will, rather than blood donor value that Moff Gideon wanted, if you will. So you had that, and you have them recruiting sort of let me just find Bo-Katan, if you will, as whoops, I ended up to stop sharing. Let me just do that again. Share screen. Bo-Katan, if you will, recruiting Bo-Katan. You have a bit of back and forth between her and Boba Fett for a bit, where they sort of like you got like some clones about who the armor was and who's a Mandalorian, with like, this armor belonged to my father, don't you mean your donor? And he gets into a scuffle with her female companion, officer, if you will, eventually breaking up. But I should probably mention that they also able to capture the Imperial scientist here, if you will, to get him the more details of where Moff Gideon is. So they work together to take on Moff Gideon and his Dark Troopers, Mando fighting one of them one-on-one and able to jettison the rest. While a group of Cara Dune, Fennec Shan, not Boba Fett, who was just chasing them, and Bo-Katan end up trying to capture the control thing, looking for Moff Gideon, but Moff Gideon ends up confronting Mando, who is trying to rescue Grogu. They end up dueling. Mando beats him and claims the Darksaber, wants to give it to Bo-Katan, but she refuses because it's not how tradition works, and she cannot claim the Mandalorian throne unless she defeats Din Djarin in combat. But this is when the Dark Troopers end up returning, and it looks like the heroes are about to be surrounded by, nearly impossible to defeat Death Troopers, if you will. Mando took everything it had for Mando just to take one down. Then suddenly an X-Wing, of course, shows up, and it's none other than Luke Skywalker with the Force taking down troops, if you will. Luke Skywalker. So yeah, Luke Skywalker basically mowing down. Basically, as you can see here, mowing down Dark Troopers, if you will, revealing his face, which CGI is Mark Hamill, but they did CGI with him, and he offers to, he's here to collect Grogu, but first gets Mando to give permission. Here we also see Luke Skywalker with R2 has a nice brief conversation with Grogu, if you will, and Mando sort of takes his mask off and saying, Grogu, that you should go with Luke, and you have like a sort of heartfelt goodbye as Grogu goes with Luke Skywalker, as Din Djarin has sort of finished his mission, if you will, ending the sort of like season. But of course, Boba Fett ends up. We get at least a teaser from Boba Fett, if you will, killing Bib Fortuna and becoming like the new head of Jabba's thing, if you will. So, hold on, there we go. Yeah, Bib Fortuna, who has gotten a bit very large and chubby since the 5 years, if you will. So, but yeah, Bib Fortuna got killed by Boba Fett, and yeah, end up claiming to be the new head of Mandalorian, if you will. So, yeah. So yeah, arguably that was a very good season, and I will admit that last episode, particularly with like Luke Skywalker mowing down like those Darth Troopers, was arguably for me the highlight. But I'll get more about that. And I got fanboyed with that, and even like the nice cameo of R2D2, all that stuff got me excited. But yeah, so arguably this season, the second season of The Mandalorian, arguably for many people was just as good as the first. Some would say better, some would say almost as good. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. In some ways, there's I'm not sure which season 1, season 2, which one is better for me, but because there are aspects of episodes of season 1 I think are better than season 2, but there are episodes of season 2 that I would probably put above season 1. So yeah. Arguably, if I was to break it down, so you could break it down as sort of like you could break it down as the first 2 episodes of Mando dealing with the monster of the week, trying to find a group of Mandalorians, and just in order to find the Jedi with like the Kayak Dragon, which we actually get to see what one actually looks like, which is actually kind of cool that we got to do that, if you will. So yeah. And I do like how the show is continuing to like emphasize just how that Tusken Raiders aren't quite the savages that we are kind of led to believe in the movies, if you will. There's more to their culture, and they are willing to put peace and compromises with settlers and farmers here, as long as they like have a common cause to work together and not really invade their territory. If they can do agreement, going for the Kayak Dragon and getting their meat and their pearls, if you will. So I did enjoy that. Let's see. It was also interesting that this season ended up sort of expanding to like other sort of Star Wars media. Let's see, such as the first episode, you have like characters from like book with I believe Cobb Vann, and of course, let's see, Boba Fett being teased. And then, of course, like later down the episodes, you got like from the Clone Wars, such as Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano, and of course in the films, Luke Skywalker and R2D2, as also Boba Fett, if you will. So yeah. Now, granted, some people do not like that. Didn't like how all these cameos and like let's see characters from like these other Star Wars properties came into like the second season of The Mandalorian, which. And felt like it's better that Mandalorian remains sort of small scale, if you will, just detached from the rest of the Star Wars universe. But if you're asking me, I think the characters that appeared for like the Mandalorian season 2, I think made the most sense for like the cameos that they did do, if you will. from, let's see, Mandalorians, yeah, it would make sense that you would see perhaps Bo-Katan. Granted, perhaps she looks a bit younger than she probably should for her age, but I think that's just more of the actress, though. Granted, she just goes kind of showed that Bo-Katan, despite being in the same era, let's see, as young Obi-Wan, if you will, let's see, ends up aging well for not being on a Tatooine desert, though. I do want, though, and then again, Bo-Katan, I have to guess, was the younger sister, Satine, so probably not the same age as Obi-Wan, maybe a bit slightly younger. I'm not sure how old she actually is, but she's arguably in her 50s or something. But yeah, so if that's had my guess there, but yeah, Bo-Katan, I like that. I think it makes sense that she would appear because for the last season, we were told that if you're only a live action fan, you're told that Mandalorians cannot remove their helmets and armor of your stuff. But if you might remember, which does make some, granted, it could also be if you like watch Attack of the Clones, you know that Jango Fett was not wearing his armor all the time, but you're wondering about that. And if you watch the Clone Wars, with particular Bo-Katan, you see Mandalorians that do remove their helmets and all that stuff. So it makes sense that you would introduce this Mandalorian that does remove her helmet and all that stuff, and learn that, okay, Mando's a part of a cult, if you will, called the Watch, and they follow like the tradition of no armor must ever be removed. So it makes sense that by introducing Bo-Katan, you seeing like, okay, there are different sort of aspects and creeds and beliefs in Mandalorian society. It's not all just like one belief, like Jedi, if you will. So yeah, in so many ways, it's like real life, where how different countries and cultures and religions have different sects of like different beliefs. Like Christianity, you have like Protestants and Catholics, and some Methodist, evangelicals, all Church of England, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's like North and South divides, like in the UK, America, East, West, Germany, if you will, stuff like that. Different cultures, despite different cultures and like similar groups, if you will. So yeah. Also, given the fact that Moff Gideon had the dark saber, let's see, and we know, and if anyone that watched Rebels knew that she had the dark saber at the end of season 4, or at least in the opening and the first few episodes of season 4, we knew that something must have happened between her and Moff Gideon. So it makes sense that you would bring her in. Let's see, Boba Fett. Let's see, being the sort of original, sort of like basically his armor is basically what inspired Mandalorian culture and all that stuff. And if you were going to bring his armor back in, I think it makes sense that you would bring Boba Fett back. Granted, maybe you could argue you didn't need Boba Fett, but if you're going to bring his armor in, you're going to definitely bring in the captain. And then, given the fact that they teased that someone rescued Fennec Shand, I think it makes sense that it'd be someone that we knew that was on Tatooine, though. And also in the expanded universe, aka Legends, they did bring back Boba Fett from escaping from the Starlight Pit. So yeah, and it was kind of fun just seeing Mando interact with the original Betsy character that inspired the Mandalorians, even though Boba Fett doesn't really make it clear that he is Mandalorian himself, but his father was. So yeah, and in many ways, this allowed Boba Fett to show what Star Wars fans always wanted to see of the character, being like this badass hunter mowing down enemies, which he met a sort of comedic end, if you will, in Return of the Jedi, which George Lucas said that if he knew how popular Boba Fett was, he would have made a much more better end for the character. So yeah, this was a chance to like redeem Boba Fett in live action, if you will. So yeah, I even like the sort of banter he has between Bo-Katan and himself. So that was great as well. So yeah, I think it makes sense. And Ahsoka Tano, Ahsoka Tano and Luke Skywalker, face it, if Mando's quest is to go find Jedi and bring Grogu back to them, it has to be one of those two, because they're the only sort of Jedi or Jedi-like characters that we know as survived post Order 66, and I do like and it makes sense that you would bring them in. And with Ahsoka, it's of course building up to like being used to build up Grand Admiral Thrawn, so I'm fine with that. And it's doing her own spin-off show, which apparently was originally going to be animated, but it became live action to be a part of the Mandoverse, so fine. Now, regardless of what people's thoughts on Ahsoka, but I think it makes sense that Ahsoka TV series, I think it makes sense to bring her back here for at least Mando, and it allowed Mando to learn the name of the child, which was Grogu. Some don't like it, some do, but and you get that referenced a lot in the TV shows, if you will, about their names. So yeah, but yeah. And arguably, Luke Skywalker would make the most sense of being the one to take Grogu away, because it's like he's the Jedi survivor. If it's like he is the one Jedi that every Star Wars character knows that he survived by the end of the original trilogy. So it would make sense that the one Jedi that Grogu would call out to would be Luke Skywalker, which and he would train for Jedi. Now, granted, of course, there's the events of the sequel trilogy, and we're going to get into that when I get into season 3 discussion, if you will, down the line. But arguably, if you wanted to if you wanted Grogu to be long-term a Star Wars character that's throughout multiple generations, after the events of like the Skywalker saga, he would be a character that survived, and you could say that, oh, Luke Skywalker taught him to be a Jedi, and who knows, you can make him like the next Yoda, if you will, for like future Star Wars sagas, though granted. Let's see, I'm not going to get it. No, granted, for those who've seen the Book of Boba Fett and season 3 of The Mandalorian, no, that's not really what ends up happening. But yeah, it makes sense that Luke would come in. So yeah, I think all of the movie Clone Wars tie-ins worked for what they did. I even like the sort of teaser of Boba Fett killing Bib Fortuna. It would make sense that he would take over Jabba's thing and then become greedy and lazy, if you will, with it before Boba Fett's like taking charge. So, which is awesome. Which unfortunately, Book of Boba Fett leaves a bit of a mixed result for the Star Wars fan base, but I'll get into that when I relook at see of the Book of Boba Fett as sort of like Mando season 2.5, if you will. So yeah. Anyway, for returning characters, the ones I enjoyed the most were basically, I think it's Cara Dune and Mayfield, if you will. I did also like how Peli Motto had the appearance in the first 2 episodes, just sort of giving Mando transport and information to go to like the thing. But I like how Cara Dune was getting an arc of like becoming the New Republic Marshal, and this was arguably, of course, building to like Rangers of the New Republic spin-off, but unfortunately the actress just couldn't shut her mouth, if you will, and got fired from Disney. So as a result, we did not get that show, and that probably caused some long-term damage for the Mandoverse, if you will, both for the show and I guess season 3, if you will. But yeah, but I think it made sense with her and showing that she had helped brought order back for Grief Karga's world, if you will. Made sense that Amanda would come to them at least once, if you will. So I thought that was good as well. And arguably at this point, Cara Dune sort of became the most sort of recurring character in the supporting character, at least at the time, until for the first 2 seasons. So yeah, it's cool to see her there, if you will. Oh yeah, Mayfield. You arguably perhaps the 7th. It's arguably one of the top 3 episodes for me, I guess, if you will. Probably every episode's great this season, but let's see, where Mando sort of pushed to his edges and willing to what he's willing to do to try and help Grogu, taking off his armor and putting Imperial Stormtrooper get up, if you will. Well, and even having to remove his helmet just to to try and get the location when Mayfield could not go to the transport himself. But sort of like the morality of just like how far one is willing to break the rules to like, let's see, when they get desperate, if you will. And there's even the whole, let's see, morality of like whatever makes you sleep at night with Mayfield. And we learned that the reason why he defected the Empire in the first place was because, let's see, Operation Cinder went too far for him and even lost the lives of a lot of his comrades, if you will. And it's just like for him, it just shows how little his life was worth to for Imperials, if you will. So you see why he ended up betraying the Empire and becoming a mercenary. So arguably pretty good episode. So yeah. Fennec Shand, I guess her surviving a blaster shots in the stomach feels a bit of one of those Star Wars comic book deaths, if you will. That is no doubt controversial, probably, but people did like the character enough, and I was hoping for more of her. And it was teased that she might have survived in the first season, so it was. Now, arguably, not really much of character work for her besides showing just how much of a skilled sharpshooter she is. So, yeah. Let's see, for me, so yeah, that was also like a good thing. I did like how the first couple of episodes, you had Mando fighting monsters, be it the Cat Dragon or those spider eggs, which apparently were from concept art for, I think, Empire Strikes Back. So yeah. Anyway, if I had to give what episodes were the best, I'd say the first one with the Marshal, the second one with let's see, of course, and the Believer, if you will, of Mayfield, and of course the rescue, let's see, with like Luke Skywalker's thing and his scene of lightsaber mowing down. I fanboyed so hard on that. It's like I could not contain my excitement. So yeah, arguably it was like the best it was like the best moment of Star Wars on television I saw. At that moment, it got me extremely hyped. And in many ways, that scene allowed Star Wars fans who were disappointed that we didn't get to see Luke in his prime. It gave us a glimpse of what Luke Skywalker in his prime actually was, mowing down those Death Troopers, if you will. So that was good. Oh yeah, Moff Gideon, of course, being a much more recurring antagonist, being more teased throughout like the seasons, if you will, and before finally showing up again at the end of the first episode. I mean, the final episode. So yeah, I liked he was a bit more of a recurring antagonist, if you will. Usually showing up at the end with like revealing that, oh, these Imperials are working for him. Oh, he's put a tracker in the Razor Crest, which gets destroyed. I forgot to mention that, which is like, my God, after following that ship for like 2 seasons, it's sort of like it's sad to see it go, but yeah. So it was like kind of cool seeing that, and with like also like let's see, him encountering Grogu at the end of that episode, and then receiving Mando's messages. Just like he was just a sort of recurring presence that you'd expect. He didn't show too much except for like those cameos towards the end, but it gave us enough to keep him as like this threat that needs to be dealt with. So I did like that. What else? Okay, we even had one episode with like the sort of like the Believer, where Grogu didn't appear at all, which I think was quite interesting, giving us an idea of what the show would be like without Grogu in it. And it shows that if the show chose to do so, Mando could work without having Grogu along, because especially if you get like let's see, other recurring characters. So I think that worked quite well. Overall, I'd probably give this season a 9.5 out of 10, maybe a 10. It was nearly, I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10 season. There's a few bits and pieces you could argue that you could nitpick, or maybe I mean, for example, I think Grogu went a bit too far with like the whole eating the eggs joke, but yeah, overall, it was a very good season, and I enjoyed it, and I can see why. Let's see, for many people, Mando was like at the time shining hope for Star Wars, and showing Disney Plus shows can work, and I did like. And those like well, and at the time before it built up with like all those other spin-off shows that were going to happen, I can see why people were like initially excited with just how good these first two seasons were. And arguably, let's see, that Luke Skywalker moment is hands down so one of the best moments ever. That you got people debating what was the best hallway moment between him and Darth Vader. Though, granted, I think Darth Vader still wins out for most people. So, yeah. So yeah, it was a very good episode of Star Wars, and I enjoyed it. So season of Star Wars, and I enjoyed it. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to really say. I'm just sort of dragging on at this point, but yeah, I'm gonna be watching. My next look back will be, of course, the Book of Boba Fett, and then of course ITZY season 3 when I get the chance, and then hopefully I have the time to watch the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which I may do so. Let's see, which luckily for me, May is my birthday, so the month of May is my birthday, so I might watch it on my birthday. So yeah, I'm looking really forward to seeing like this the movie, and it was fun watching these Star Wars seasons, especially of the Mandalorian, especially 2 episodes on Star Wars Day, if you will. So yeah. For those who end up listening to this look back review, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I will see you next time when we discuss, let's see, the Book of Boba Fett. But for now, I am Blue Star Saber signing off. Happy Star Wars Day. May the Force be with you.